Myself, Kavitha, working as an assistant professor for Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology in the Department of EEE. I would like to take the topic on difference between neutral wire and ground wire. The neutral wire always carries the current which is equal to the phase wire. So when you go with a single phase circuit, so whatever current that carries by the phase, the same current is going to be carried by the neutral also. Say for example, the current carried by the phase wire is 5 ampere. And this 5 ampere flows to the load, and the same 5 ampere will tend to flow through the neutral wire. So I can say that neutral is always going to carry the current. So coming to the ground wire. So in the normal cases, the ground wire is not going to carry any current. So during fault or due to any leakage of current, only in that case, the ground wire is going to carry the current here. So that is the difference between the neutral and ground wire. So let us go with an example so that you can observe what is neutral and the ground wire in detail. So let me take a socket. So we have a 3-pin socket here, and this is 3-pin plug here. So you can, when you observe, you can just see these 2 pins are shorter, as well as the area of cross section is going to be less. Whereas when you consider the longer pin, that is which we call it as an earth pin, this is going to be the longer one as well as the thicker one here. So we'll just see the concept. Why does this 3-pin exist in a electricity? Now going to the pin. So normally we have these 2 knobs. One is used for the phase wire connection and another one for the neutral. So the phase wire is nothing but the conductor which is surrounded by the red insulation. I call it as a phase wire, which I also call it as a live or hot wire. Whereas the conductor with black insulation, I call it as a neutral wire. So always the neutral wire will have a ground potential. This is equal to the ground. So this neutral will always have a ground potential which is equal to 0. Whereas the phase wire always have a high voltage here. So according to our Indian standard voltage for single phase, we have just considered 220 here. So when I say 220, this phase will carry 220, whereas your ground wire, that is phase wire, will carry a voltage of 0 here. And we all know that for our domestic purpose, we used to get a AC supply, alternating current, which means that the voltage will be high at one point, maximum positive value and maximum negative value at the other side here. It keeps on going positive and negative maximum here. So in same way, so when the voltage is at positive maximum, the current will tend to flow from phase to neutral. So when the current voltage is at negative maximum here, the current will tend to flow from ground to the phase terminal here. The idea here is the voltage. So in this condition, the voltage will be positive maximum. In this case, the voltage will be negative maximum in the phase wire, whereas the ground wire will always have 0 potential here. So let us see with an example so that you will never forget. So I have just taken a slider. So I have considered the neutral wire to be at ground here, and you can just see. So when the voltage is at positive maximum, the ball will slide from phase to neutral here. So whereas when the voltage is at negative maximum, the ball will slide from neutral to the phase here. So you can see in both the diagram, the neutral is at ground potential, whereas only the ball is going to move back and forth based on the potential which you give here, either positive maximum or negative maximum here. So you can always say that the voltage which we get for the domestic purpose is an alternating in nature. Now coming to the thing. So let me have a cat here. It's a naughty cat, which comes into touch with the wire. That is so let me assume the insulation of the neutral wire is failure, and this cat is touching the metal part of the this particular neutral wire. Yeah. And this cat is at ground potential. So remember, the cat is at ground potential, whereas this neutral wire is also at ground potential here. So the potential difference between these two is going to be 0. So will the cat experience any shock here? The answer is no. Why? Because the potential difference between the ground point as well as the neutral point is going to be 0 here. So that hence the cat will not experience a shock here. Coming to the next case, let me assume that the cat is touching the metal part of the, that is conductor part of the phase wire here, and the cat once again it is at ground point here. Now what happens, this ground is at 0 potential, whereas the voltage, let me assume there is a negative voltage maximum, that is 220 volt here. So this live wire is having a negative 220. So now what will be the potential difference here? 220. So this now will the cat experience any shock? Exactly, yes. Why? Because the potential difference between the live wire and the ground, solid ground point is going to be 220 here. So the cat is going to experience a heavy shock here. Now coming to the other case. Now let me explain what is the earth point here. Why do we go for the earth point? Now let me assume I have a microwave oven. So this entire setup, the entire electrical appliance, I am considering that as a resistor here. So the one point is connected to the phase and the other one is connected to the neutral here. And let me take that. There is a insulation fault. You can just see, I am just zooming and showing you. There is a insulation failure, which means that the conductor is touching the metal part of the oven here. Is it clear? So this insulation is getting failure. So directly the copper conductor is touching the metal part of the oven. Now let me have the naughty cat once again. Now this cat is going to touch the oven now. Now what happens here? As I said earlier, this phase wire will carry a 220 voltage here. So once this cat is going to touch the metal part, this metal part is going to have a voltage of 220, and whereas the ground is going to be 0 here. So since the potential difference between these 2 points is going to be 220, the cat will definitely experience a shock here. It is going to experience a shock here. So how to prevent it? So to prevent that, we are going to have one more wire, green color wire, that I call it as a earth wire here, right? So this earth wire, it is connected to the electrical appliances, live part of the electrical appliances here. So now what is the purpose of this earth wire? So let me talk about the resistance. So you all know resistance is nothing but rho L by A. Now, I told you the area of cross section of this earth wire is going to be thicker. So when this is going to be thicker, I can say the resistance of this earth wire is going to be less here. So always remember the current will tend to flow through the low resistance path here. So whenever, now we can just see, so the leakage current, whatever you have in that electrical appliances will tend to flow through what? Will tend to flow through the low resistance path, which is nothing but the earth wire path here. And this earth wire, always see this diagram. So this earth wire is connected to the soil. It is being connected to the ground here. So this leakage current will tend to flow through this ground potential here. So now as soon as when the cat is going to touch the metal part here, since we have an earth wire, it is not going to experience any shock here. Is it clear? So that is why we just go for the earth wire. So the purpose of earth wire is it is having a very less resistance, which means that the current will tend to flow through the low resistance path here. So hence, though we have any insulation failure in the system, the metal part, the current through the metal part will directly flow through the ground potential, and you will not experience any shock here. Now coming to this, now when you go for the mobile charger, so some of the electrical appliances which doesn't have 3-pin socket here, so that is nothing but your mobile charger. Only we have 2 pins here. Why? Because this is going to have a very minimum current for charging your battery of the mobile here. So yeah, even when you have any fault in the system, you will not experience any severe shock here. So there is a economic point of thing here is we doesn't go for any third pin here. So it is unnecessary to have a third pin, that is earth pin. So we have only 2-pin socket here. So the mobile charger doesn't require any earth pin. So coming to your TV, washing machine, grinder, fridge. So everything needs, because it deals with an high voltage and it draws more current also. So these requires a 3-pin. Definitely it requires a 3-pin plug here, right? So some of the question, I hope you have understood this section, and some of the questions are there for you. So one question is, now I've just made 1, 2, 3 points here. So now, do you remember what are the names of these wires? And the fourth one, now what could you recall what is the potential difference between these two wires? Now, the fifth question is, why is it dangerous to touch the red wire compared to the black wire? One more question, why ground pin is longer? Now find the answer from the video. Thank you for watching it.